It is the ugly side of the beautiful game. This is what officers face at football matches every week.
Football isn't just a game, it's much more important than that. It's our life, it's our feelings, it's our passion. It dictates our mood. We love football, we live it, we breathe it, we eat it. Football is everything. It's football heritage. The pre-game nerves, the nail-biting moment, nothing beats a derby day.
We're still fighting for this title, and he's got to go to Middlesbrough and get something. And I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
As far as Southgate! In contrast to the tone of much Shearer, who hits it! And scored!
Ample time for Manchester United with Beckham!
That's his chances. Oh, brilliant goal! A brilliant goal!
Losing is no option.
Where they play, how they play, if they play. That's football heritage.
Yes, good evening. Welcome to Rivals React. What a weekend of football we've had. We've had breaking news in the last sort of 5 minutes or so for any Tottenham fans in it that Rodrigo Bentancur is out for another 10 to 12 weeks after just coming back from a 10-month injury. So that's not good. We've got Pete has decided to join us at the last minute purely so he can give Charlie a little bit of a slapping after the 4-1 battering at the weekend. Roms is here. Roms is here after his absolute shameless smash and grab of their point away at Man City, then trying to convince me that Trent Alexander-Arnold should have been man of the match. We've got Wolfie here. Wolfie, those Nottingham Forest fans, you know, they're just there picking away. They're difficult to beat. We'll get his take on everything that's going on. And Perchy's here representing Tottenham, but with his Chelsea colours on. So thanks for that, Perchy's. Much appreciated, my man. Much appreciated. Guys, how is everyone? Everyone doing well? We all happy? We all good in our lives?
All good, mate. All good.
Good.
So, can we start with some ground rules, though?
Go for it, man. Go for it.
Can we never hear you talking about flowers again on this podcast? Giving those flowers. Yeah, giving them flowers last week. Coming out your mouth last time.
What flowers are we talking about? What flowers are I giving? What
Chelsea
does this mean?
Flowers last time, mate, and it just...
Oh, internet speak. Hang on, let me change my language back from human speak to internet speak. Flowers. I see what you mean. Well, listen, let's start with this. Pete, let's start with Pete. So poor old Charlie goes all the way up to Newcastle. I see him putting his pictures online. Here we are. Look, me and the Chelsea boys got a beer and we've got all this. And you've got all these injuries, Pete. I predicted Chelsea to beat you 2-1. And then you go and slap them 4-1 with a 17-year-old playing in centre mid, 3 goalies on the bench. I believe another 3 teenagers came off the bench to make their debuts or whatever it was. What happened? Where did that come from? Did you foresee that, Pete?
I was always confident, Charlie will attest to this, that I was always confident we could win, but not like that. Not with the players we got missing in the injuries, and like you said, you talked about the bench. I've talked about it before. It's just a crazy situation. You guys are suffering it too with injuries. It's just an absolute mad season for Newcastle. But you know, speaking of flowers, this is what Eddie Howe does. This is Eddie Howe is navigating himself through a really difficult moment with injuries and still pulling results out the bag. And look, it was a relatively even game in the first half. They had a lot of the ball. We had equally probably as good a chances as they did. And you're going in at 1-1 and you're thinking, we need to step it up. But boy, did we step it up in the second half. We were much the better team. Everything just seemed to click together. I'm not going to look. We can talk about Miley, we can talk about Anthony Gordon, but having Isak back in the team after so long and being a focal point as a striker, we went into Bournemouth without a striker, having to play Gordon there, and having him there is just such a big influence. And yeah, he got his goal, fantastic finish, but it allows the rest of the players to do their thing. And I think we talked about it, Charlie. I'll let you have your opinion on it. We did say that the midfield battle would win the game. And for me, Bruno Guimaraes was outstanding in that midfield, just completely dictated the game. Lewis Miley was very, very good, allowed the allowance to get forward and press high. Joe Linton, see from the third goal, the press, he doesn't give it up. Any mistake, he's going to punish you, and he did. And why is Gordon not in the England team? That's my question.
Well, we'll talk about Anthony Gordon in a minute, but Charlie, Newcastle had all these players out injured. Your players are slowly but surely coming back. I mean, that's a damning result, isn't it? And by the way, someone got a TV on or something. I can hear some echo. It's gone. Charlie, what's happened? What happened? One step forward, 2 steps back for Chelsea.
Mate, that's the way it is at the moment right now. Look, to be honest, I felt confident going up there, given the last 2 matches we'd had. We were building some form, we were scoring a fair few goals, showing that we can go toe to toe with some of the top sides in the league, and I felt reasonably confident. Look, St James's Park's a tough place to go. Like whether at Newcastle are full strength or not, other than maybe Anfield, I'd probably say it's the toughest place to go in the league.
Here it is. Even with 17-year-olds in central midfield, it's
a tough place to go. It's a tough place to go. Like it is a tough place to go, but I felt confident going up there. I felt we had it in us to get a result. I don't have too many complaints about the starting lineup or anything like that. First off, felt fairly even. Newcastle started quickly. First 15 minutes, they were on it. We give it. Isak gets a goal. It's poor defense. Look, it's poor defending. It's well worked. Lewis Miley with a decent ball in and whatnot. He had a good game. But from a Chelsea perspective, you look at the goals that we conceded, they're all very avoidable from a defensive standpoint. I don't want to discredit Newcastle because they deserve to win. But I look at it from a Chelsea perspective and think from a defensive standpoint, all the goals were so avoidable. Poor offside trap from Cucurella and Badiashile. The second goal, it's a free header for Lascelles in the box. No one's picking them up. We've had problems with that. We had it against City as well. We let Akanji have a free header. The third goal is Thiago Silva making the most uncharacteristic mistake imaginable. When you go from 2-1 to 3-1 down inside 90 seconds, the game's done. Reece James being ill-disciplined, stupid mistakes. I don't want to discredit Newcastle because they played well and they deserved it. But I think, we lost 4-1, but I wouldn't have looked at that game and thought that was a 4-1 game. Yes, they created more chances than us. We didn't create an awful lot of chances. We could have perhaps gone in at the break 2-1 up. Maybe Conor Gallagher should have done better with the opportunity. But too many players at the end of the day for Chelsea just didn't turn up. Cole Palmer had his worst game of the season. Silva was poor. Everyone was poor. Not a single person on that pitch could have left the stadium and felt, do you know what? I was even half decent. Everyone was crap. And look, it's frustrating because you feel like you're making progress and you take a step back. I just think that the problem with this team right now is, one, there's zero discipline in it. We've picked up the most bookings in the league. We've got 44 yellow cards already this season. We've got Pochettino serving a touchline ban for the game. Reece James now banned again. And for someone that misses a lot of games already, to miss another game is not ideal. Cucurella's now picked up 5 yellow cards in 7 games. He's banned. Sterling's 1 booking away from being banned for a game as well. Jackson's got 7 yellow cards this season already. So there's a lack of discipline. We were soft in the 50-50s. Every 50-50 duel we missed out on. And yeah, it was just a horrendous day at the office. And it's one that we got to write off pretty quickly. But it was worrying more so from a defensive standpoint and a lack of application and a lack of discipline. All these things. When you've got no discipline, no leadership, and you're soft, that's a real bad place to be as a football team.
It's not a great place to be. I mean, Wolfie, let me bring you in here on this, and welcome for making your debut on the show. Great to see you last week at the Football Awards. Hopefully you saw me when I was sober as opposed to as the evening got a little bit more lively.
Were you sober?
I was sober. When you met me early on, I'd only had one drink. I was just hyper. Wolfie, Chelsea are 3 points above Nottingham Forest. How happy are you to see the likes of Chelsea having seasons like this? And what do you make of Chelsea? Because I've defended them as a Spurs fan. I've defended them all season saying, you know what? I think Pochettino's going to get them playing. But they need to get some players back. And every time I think, yeah, this looks decent from them, they then go and put in a performance like this. What do you make of them?
They're too hit and miss at the moment. I think the biggest thing they're missing, I would say, on top of everything Charlie said, is consistency. Like, the thing I think with Chelsea fans is they start to go up a little peak. They think something's turning. They beat you guys 4-1. They draw with Man City. Suddenly see their chest bearing again. And then bang, straight back down to earth and reality. But the reality is with Chelsea, they've been like this for a couple of seasons now. And there's this entitlement about the Chelsea fan base still that they need to be fighting for top four still. That, yeah, I love Charlie. Me and Charlie know each other well, but there is still that entitlement, and you can understand it with what they've done in their past, recent Champions League winners and everything. But at some point, they're going to have to face reality if they're going to get on board with this project, buying all these kids, getting a new manager in, getting a new style of play. Then they're going to have to wait it out. That's the only option. They brought in Potter last season, who did well for Brighton, and they lost patience with him. I mean, I know Charlie was patient, but they lost patience with him way too quickly. And what it's telling you now, it's not the manager. It's the structure. It's the people above. Bolly's playing, football manager with this. And has he approached it in the right way? In my opinion...
Can I ask you, Wolfie, let me just ask you, sorry, just quickly, on that point, I'm interested to know. I was in God, I could have been on anyone's show. I'm always on people's shows. I was on someone's show yesterday, and the question was asked, is it Bowley playing football manager? Because Bowley has brought in the people underneath him now. The criticism last year, and Charlie might know better, the criticism last year was that Bowley was playing football manager, whereas this year they've got the director of football and the scouts, right? So is it that he's just signing off checks, or is it that he's picking the players? What do you make of it?
For me, accountability ends up in his lap. It doesn't matter who you've got underneath. Bottom line is he's in charge. He's signing off the paychecks. And he should be questioning that recruitment team. He should, because Chelsea, from an outsider, for 3-4 years, I'd say from Drogba's time, they haven't recruited a striker. It's clear. I think every other fan base can see it. But instead of spending, I know they've now been linked. I heard today you're linked with the Napoli chap, which would be exactly what you needed 2 years ago. It's been crying out for a striker. They've got the midfield. They've got a decent defense. They just haven't got that gel, and they haven't got that focal point. I know Nkuku's been out all season. I highly rate him. I know he's nearly back, but he's not an out-and-out 9 for me. So they're still missing that big point. They would have been better off not signing Caicedo, Lavia fine, and just putting that money into a striker. And that's what's missing for me, is that. And if the ownership there can't see it, then they are playing football manager and they're not doing a very good job.
I think the problem is, right, is that, like, people talk about, when people say that Chelsea have got to qualify for the Champions League, I agree, we need to get Champions League football, but people are purely basing that on money spent. When you actually look at it, and you look at the squad of players we've got, if you look at it outside of, say, the academy graduates like your Reece Jameses and stuff, how many players that we've got right now in the first 11 actually start genuinely for other teams? Maybe 4 or 5. Not very many of them. So I think when the ownership generally think that this team has to finish in the Champions League this season, and that's the remit for Poch, then that's a problem, because they shouldn't have given him this squad, because this squad's not good enough to do that. If they want to qualify for the Champions League, you should have given him the tools to go and do it, with more experienced players, with players that have got a bit more about them, have been round the block a little bit more. This team right now, whilst it's got a lot of potential in it, some of these players might not even reach the potential that the data suggests that they can. So we've gone down a route where, look, I haven't got a problem with us buying like youth players. I don't have an issue with us buying talent, but the important thing you have to do is make sure that, you know, that your first team's in order before you start buying young talent. You really have to. You know, it's almost, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like you're building the top floor of a building without without building all the lower floors first.
But Charlie, you got no excuses. Look what Newcastle did. Yeah, they get Saudi money. You don't see them splashing £1 billion out. Yeah, you see them dissecting exactly where they needed to improve that team, and they were coming from a position of weakness from bottom of the league. That's the difference here. So you can hide behind it all you want, Charlie. The bottom line is you didn't start at the position Newcastle were in. You had players in that team. Your recruitment was just shit.
I think the recruitment.
We spoke about this. Yeah. We spoke about this pre-season, myself and yourself on your channel, right? And I'm coming from a salty place. You took Lavia and Caicedo, so it is a bit salty. But I agree with Wolfie that I said to you, I think one of them would have been all right, and then just prioritize that 9. Because I agree with Wolfie. You haven't had. I disagree since Drogba. I would say Diego Costa was very successful for them as well. But again, it was quite short term. It was over a 2-3 year stint. You kind of need that long term number 9 who is of quality. So I actually agree with Wolfie. I feel like you should have dropped, maybe missed out on a Lavia or a Caicedo and went for that 9, because it's now to your detriment. You needed that number 9. And then Nkunku, let's be honest, I rate him highly, but he is kind of still an unknown entity that did very well in Germany, but albeit that's another league. We don't know exactly how he's going to do in the Prem. I do think he'll do well, but there's no guarantees. So I do feel like you should have prioritized that 9, 100%.
I was going to say I was going to add to that as well, because you know you have spent a lot of money and it's been over a couple of managers. So when the ownership came in, they wanted 3 managers, because you know, before Potter came in, that you're already spending that money, but then Potter's come in and wanted to buy particular players to do a particular job. Then he gets sacked, and then you've got Posh coming in. So you've got a squad there of probably good players, but they're over 3 different managers and 3 different styles of football. And I'm not saying it's at the same level. I don't think it's anywhere near it. But this is what Man United did. Man United bought and spent loads of money on buying loads of players for the manager that they had at the time, realized the manager wasn't good enough, got rid of the manager, brought another one in, and then spent a load more money on the high-profile players to appease that manager. Now, I don't think you're going to continue that, because I think Poch is going to be there for a long period of time, and I think he's going to build a team. And you can see that. You can see that in some of your recent performances, that he is starting to build something, and it's going to take some time. But I just think, you know, ultimately, you have brought strikers in. The boys have talked about it. You know, Drogba and Costa were the last 2 main quality strikers that you brought in. But there's a lot of panic there. There's a lot of panic buying for me. There's a lot of, they want him, so we'll sign him instead. And when you're doing that, you're not buying players that actually you need for your team. You're buying them to stop other teams buying these players. Yeah. And that's where I kind of question the recruitment policy. Is that why are you buying that player for that position when you don't necessarily need it? Like, you bought so many centre midfielders, and like you've got too many to fit in that midfield, and it doesn't make sense. Like, it genuinely.
I agree. This is why I've got slack with for the manager. I don't put so much blame on him, because I look at it more on the recruitment side of things. And look, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the business we did in the summer. I think we signed some very good footballers, but the reality is that these guys aren't ready to make an impact at the top level right now. And, you know, we need to be qualifying for the Champions League and getting as close to the top few places in that league as possible. And right now, the squad, and people might laugh at it, the squad probably isn't good enough to do that. There's not enough ready-made quality in there right now. This squad could be good enough, and I think will be good enough in, say, 18 to 24 months' time. It could well be good enough, but that doesn't solve the issue right now. This is my point. When I'm concerned, but I think it's very reasonable to criticize the ownership and the recruitment policy that we've gone down, because we have given Pochettino a squad that, in reality, if we're brutally honest, isn't good enough to qualify for the Champions League. So if the remit for the manager is to qualify for the Champions League, and you as a club have given him this squad of players, then you've set him up to fail. So that's why I cut him a bit of slack, because the squad, whilst it's got good players in it, there's not enough ready-made professionals in there. There's not enough leaders in there. There's not enough. I look at Reece James as a captain. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be captain, but I just think it's probably a year too soon for him. He could have done with learning from Thiago Silva for a year. As a captain, you've got to be there 9 times out of 10. Misses far too many games through injury. And as we saw at the weekend, he lacks discipline, like so many of these players. So I just feel that we've assembled a squad that probably will be good in a couple of years' time, but that doesn't sort out the here and now. So I just think the recruitment, it's absolutely right to question the recruitment, because what really are we doing? Are we just stockpiling players to stop other people getting them and then hoping to sell them on for a profit? But then we're signing a lot of these young players to sell on, and yet none of them are playing any football. So how are you going to make a profit on any of these guys when they're not playing?
Can I ask? I was just about to say that, Charlie. I was just about to say, similar to what Pete was saying. The problem with United as well, they'll keep sacking managers and be left with the dross that the previous manager has. That's the problem if you want to, because I'm hearing a lot of Poch out today, trend and whatnot. This will be the problem with, we all know you're probably the most impatient fan base, right? And if you were now to get rid of Poch, you're going to have all these players you can't get off the book. They're not going to be the current manager's players. And it's just, that's why I do feel that Chelsea fans do have to be a bit patient, because Pete's right. Although Chelsea are 10th, there is an identity. Now, I'm not just saying this from a biased point of view. I look at Chelsea and United, and for me, you're the better team. You're the better team. How they're 4 points off Spurs and whatnot.
They've just got more leaders and experience.
Exactly, because I look at your team and I only really see, help me out, but Sterling, Thiago Silva, Chilwell possibly, but there's not enough senior players in that team. So, and I would say Reece James now as well. Champions League win, I think he's 24, 25 now. You can't be calling him a kid anymore. I'd say you've got about 4 or 5, but that's not enough for a team like Chelsea at all. And it's evident in most of your games. And although I think Poch was in the stands at St. James Park, that's where your seniors need to step up. And if anything, your seniors were the ones that were actually setting the worst examples to a younger players. Because you have Reece James, who's captain, that gets sent off at a time where, let's be honest, the game was pretty much done. He did not need to make that foul. And then you've got Thiago Silva, which I rate highly, by the way. He's been one of the best centre-backs we've seen of the last 20 years. Doing scoop turns when he doesn't have to, giving the ball away, and it's very unlike him. So this is where you need a few more seniors in your team.
The question is, were the Chelsea fans saying this when the window closed, or were they happy with the recruitment? Is this all Captain Hindsight?
There was. Look, I think there was always concerns.
Wolfie just chucks in a grenade, sits back, and goes, "Go on."
I was happy with the recruitment. I'd be lying if I sat here and said I wasn't happy with it. I was happy with it, but there was still a concern that there would be a bottleneck effect caused by this, because we all know that young players need minutes to develop, but they're all taking the minutes off each other. So some are going to be developing a lot more than others. And if you want to be selling some of these players on for profit, as I was saying before, when they're not playing or not developing at a rate you expect them to, then you're not going to get your return on investment for them. Look, I think it's clear that we had experienced pros last season and it didn't really get us anywhere. But I think it's absolutely right that we don't have enough elite level footballers in the side. It's as simple as that.
Can I ask you a question, Charlie, before we move on from Chelsea? Do you think that, I know that the £1 billion is what gets banded around, and that is the banter that you guys are going to take, is that it was £1 billion. Do you think that what they've tried to do is different to what most clubs would do? Because most clubs who spend £1 billion, you would assume that you're buying top-class international footballers that are ready to come in, hit the ground running, and you go, right, we're back, we're winning things. It doesn't look like you guys have done that. I'm trying to give a ray of hope here for you guys, that it almost looks like you've spent the $1 billion in the hope that, okay, this is our squad for the next 4 or 5 years and everyone's going to come good, which we know doesn't always work. But do you see where I'm going with that, Charlie? Is there a case for that rather than, oh, you spent $1 billion, you should be winning a league?
Yeah, no, I think again, as I was alluding to before, like the money thing is obviously everyone spends money, and if it was as simple as spend the most money you win, then that's what would happen. But we know it doesn't work like that. But I think it's fair to suggest that, like this has never been done before. We've never seen anything like this happen before. Perhaps maybe there's a reason for that, because maybe it doesn't work. I think like the reality is we're not going to get an answer to whether this recruitment's been any good for a couple more years. That's going to be the reality, because the bulk of these players then will be sort of 24, 25, and that's when you start getting into the beginning of your peak years and whatnot. I think it's very hard to say. Like, if you're judging it purely right now, then you'd have to say that a lot of these players haven't worked out. You only have to look at players like Mudryk and Madueke as an example. You know, we signed them last January, and we chucked them into a dog shit environment at Chelsea, and we've seen their growth slow down. And do you really think that if we sold them today, we'd make a profit on them? We absolutely wouldn't. We make a large loss on them. This is what I'm talking about when, it's fine to buy talent, but you have to optimize it. And right now, we absolutely aren't doing that. So, look, do I think this is going to work? The evidence right now would lean more towards no than yes. But I think, unfortunately, it might seem a bit of a cop-out answer, but you have to give it a little bit more time. But I do agree. You absolutely have to question the recruitment. I think it's more than valid to do that. I think it's more valid to question the recruitment than it is to question the manager right now.
That was actually what I was going to touch on. I haven't said much, but I've been listening along. But I was like, I say this all the time, and people go, well, and I said, well, Pochettino can't be signing these players. There is no way Pochettino wants all of these kids. As I said, being a Spurs fan, I know what it was like. He wanted a small squad at Spurs. He made a point of it. He exiled loads of players and went, I want to keep a small bunch of players. And the worry is the manager's going to get the stick if you end up finishing 10th or 11th again this season. He'll be the one he will lose his job if he finishes 10th. But I do actually feel a little bit sorry for him, because I sit back and go, well, surely he can't want all of these players. And it's other people that are buying players from him, because you're right, I agree. They're buying players to sell on to make a profit. But that only works. And I found it really odd because of the way they're doing it. It's like, normally that works when you go and buy young players for £2-3 million in the Championship League One. You bring them into your academy. Chelsea were brilliant at it, by the way. Chelsea's the prime example. You look at all the lads they bought in and then sold on and made £20 million on here, 10 million here, blah, 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 blah. But do you not feel, Charlie, that the problem is this could land you guys in a problem in 2-3 years' time when you're going, hang on a minute, if these lot aren't working, what do we do? Because they're not going to go anywhere on 6-year contracts. They're going to go, well, hang on a minute, you're paying me for 6 years, I'll stick around. I use Spurs as a great example. We still have Ndombele on our books.
Who?
He's still on our books, and he can't get rid of him. And the problem is, where does that go?
£10 million a year on Ndombele earns. £10 million a year. He's got no need to go anywhere.
I can see you're in Ndombele and Razor Harriata, mate.
Hang on. You can't chuck Harriata in there.
Oh, I can. This is the guy who got a contract extension triggered, and his pay went up to 30k because we got promoted. And then he got another trigger and another pay rise because we survived last year. He's absolutely stealing.
Sorry, hang on. We're paying Ndombele 200 grand a week, by the way.
200 grand a week, £60 million transfer fee.
60 million transfer fee. I mean, the guys are, but the sort of ring fence where I was go back to where I was going to my concern for Chelsea here, and I say concern, I don't care at all. Tottenham, I couldn't care less. But my point is my concern for you guys would be in the sense of, in 3 years' time, you're going to have players that aren't, they're like, we all know they're not all going to work out. Some will, some won't. But when they're on such long contracts on big, hefty wages, what do Chelsea do? Because you can't offload them unless you go and rip up their contract. But then it defeats the point of putting them on that massive contract at the start, right?
Yeah, no, it could potentially be a difficult. It could be a problem. Absolutely, I think that's more than a fair thing to say. I think on the wages thing, I think like now that we've got a lot more performance incentivized wages, a lot of the base wages is a lot lower than has ever been before at Chelsea. The wages have come down massively. But no, I agree on the contracts. It's absolutely a fair thing to say. If some of these players don't work out, then it could well be very difficult to move some of them on, as we've seen over the years before at Chelsea. It has been difficult to move certain players on. So look, it absolutely could be an issue that arises. But look, I mean, there's definitely things to be concerned about for sure. But as with all these things, I guess the only answer is just some time to see kind of how these guys develop and how it goes. But yeah, it's one of them where just like every time you think you're making some progress, you then sort of just crash back down to reality with a result or two that are just utter shit.
But is Poch getting a free ride? Is he getting a free ride?
I wouldn't say an absolute free ride, but I think, look, don't get me wrong, I think there's certain things that I think a lot of his substitutions this season have been more reactive than proactive. I think at times, maybe certainly towards the start of the season, I think at times he got the lineup wrong. But I generally feel that, like, yes, whilst of course you can apportion some blame to the manager, I do believe a lot more of it should be laid at what he's been given and at the players as well. Because simply the players we've got are better than where we are in the league right now, but they're not showing it.
I think he gets a little bit of a free ride because if you look at Postecoglou, he hit the ground running. He started with a
he did, but again, it's starting at a different point, though, isn't it? Like Spurs weren't starting with a whole new squad.
All right. Well, we did it.
When you say free ride, when you say free ride, what's the alternative? Are we saying the alternative after 13 games is you go, get rid of Poch, the next manager comes in and gets 13 games. Oh, he's not done it in 13 games. Now all of a sudden Chelsea are on their 6th or 7th manager in 2 years. Like, what does that, Wolfie, what does it mean? Is he getting a free ride?
Now, what I'm saying here is when you look at him compared to the other managers that started this year, when you look, and I'll use your boy as a specific example, he hits the ground running. He starts to get results. Yeah, you're doing a Spursy now. That's a given. But at least he hit the ground running. Poch, for me, is a bit too much hiding behind, loads of new players. He's got to fix all of this and the other. I think he needs a lot of time, and I think he will get it right. But at the same time, he shouldn't be beyond criticism in what he does.
I think that's fair.
Me and you also said, I think 3-4 weeks into the season, where Poch didn't put himself in better stead is also playing players out of positions that he is partly to blame as well. Because I remember Chilwell left wing, Gallagher in a double pivot with Enzo in front of him when they should have been the other way around. Yeah. He was playing Colwell at left back, which he's played there, but it's not his strongest position. I think Poch is to blame a bit as well, because I think had he played, football's about ifs and buts, but had he played players in their correct position, I reckon they could have picked up maybe an extra 4 or 5 points. It'll be in a better place where they are now. So I think it ultimately is down to the board, but I think Poch hasn't put himself in any good stead himself as well this season.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Look, we'll move on from Chelsea. It's very, very interesting. I want to talk about just quickly. I want to go to Romsey's boys, Liverpool. They snatched a point at Man City. Would that be fair? I've seen a couple of shows today where some of the takes I've seen on what actually happened versus what did happen were wild. Roms, give me your breakdown. I think you were very lucky to come away from Man City with a point. I didn't think you got going at all. I didn't think you really hurt them going forward. What's your take on it?
Sav, a lot of people don't do this, but I've watched, straight after a game, your emotions are running high. You might say things you didn't actually mean. I've watched the 90 minutes again, right? And I would say, and I said it straight to you after the game, so I think the first 20 minutes, we actually did well, in my opinion. I think City weren't carving us open as they were after that first 20. We were getting in great position, especially Curtis Jones, but he wasn't getting his head up enough where he could have put us in 2-3 times, a few one-on-ones in the first 20 minutes. I don't think there's this notion that City battered us pillar to post at the start of the game, but I think we actually held our own quite well. But one thing I have to say, Sav, was where I said Trent wasn't really getting skinned by Doku as much. I've watched it again. He was, I'll be honest, he was, but I just feel Doku's end product at times wasn't as good as what the City fans are letting on. There was a time where I think he's played a ball into Haaland, so he skin matched. He played a ball into Haaland. Alisson's made a very good save, and we've gone up the other end. And there was a time also in the second half where he's played to Alvarez, and Alvarez put it to Rosette. But back to the game, right? I think we deserve the point overall. I know you disagree, Sab, but I actually think we deserve the point because I think the first 20 minutes we should have got more and we didn't. Then City took control from the 20th, I'd say, to half time. They absolutely dominated us. They were beating our press for fun, and they just didn't really have their shooting boots on. Alisson then gifted them a goal, but I have to give some criticism to Trent and Szoboszlai as well, because you can't be making Nathan Ake look like Messi. You just can't. I think they should have at least, even if you, I know it's early in the game, but even if you stick a leg out or tug Ake down for like a yellow, you can't be letting him go through. And even Alisson, Haaland scored, but I don't think it was this great finish. It's not like it went straight to side netting. Alisson got a hand onto it. I think it was his fault for the poor clearance, and I do feel he could have saved that shot. But Haaland is Haaland, broke another record, quickest player to get 50 goals in the Prem. Now the second half starts, and again, City carving us open. Bypassing our press like we wasn't there. Midfield non-existent in my opinion. So Szoboszlai had one of his stinkers. Now I've been one of his biggest advocates, but you have to call it out for it is. I don't think Szoboszlai was good, and that was evident. I think he got hooked 58th minute, and then Harvey Elliott and Ryan Gravenberch then get introduced. Gravenberch, by the way, for me, was sadly our game changer. He just gave us that industry. He was tenacious. He actually took on Rodri for the goal. And what I actually would go as far as saying, a lot of Liverpool fans will say Szoboszlai. I think he's been our sign of the season so far. Now, keywords, because people don't like to listen. So far, I'm not saying overall. And I feel like he warrants even more starts. But City started to get a foothold of the game. Now, Doku's starting to get past Trent, starting to get past Matip, and they're getting a lot of success on that left side. Now, one thing I will say about Alisson, this was his worst game of the season, but this is what the elite do. They have moments, whether you're an outfield player or a goalkeeper. He kept us in this game time and time again, how he has of this season. From when Haaland shot and Alisson's made that save, 26 seconds later, we then get the equalizer. And that's what the best do. When it matters, he saved us. Because I was very overcritical of my defense. I felt like my fan base were overrating our defense because we were still, the majority of the season, we've conceded a high volume of chances. But whenever we have a one-on-one, Alisson gets us out of jail. And I was saying to my fan base, I think we're doing a bit too much here. Yes, you can look at the stats. And before the City game, I think we had the best defense alongside Arsenal, only conceded 10 goals. But you have to look at who we have between the sticks because we were still conceding a lot of chances. And Alisson was getting us out of jail, but I have to say I got it wrong. Saturday for me, and I know a lot of you might not agree, but Saturday for me proved that my defense is initially better than what I thought it was because I think we defended exceptional, especially second half.
I'll ask everybody else in the panel. Does anyone else agree there that Liverpool, watching it back, deserved a point? I mean, I watched a Liverpool team that in the first half, I think towards the end of the half, had a couple of counter-attacks. In the second half, I didn't really see them have many shots. I don't know. I'm just trying to be honest. I watched a Man City team that were wasteful. Did Liverpool deserve a point, people?
I think if you keep yourself in the game, then you're always going to have a chance. Like I guess you could say, look, deserve is sort of subjective to people's views, of course. But I don't know. Look at it. I think if you're, well, it doesn't matter who you're playing or what game it is. If you're only a goal ahead, the other side's always got a chance, and Liverpool got that chance, and they stuck it away. Look, did they deserve it? It's hard to say, but City couldn't put their chances away. So you're always going to leave the other team in with an opportunity. Look, maybe it was a little bit fortuitous and a bit of a smash and grab, but I don't think it was totally undeserved, and they got absolutely hammered in that game.
No, Charlie, I think the second goal that should never have been disallowed.
Don't get me started. I've had a massive debate on that.
Do you know? This is where I'm going to be consistent because even the Newcastle goal against Arsenal weeks ago, I said that should have stood, and I have to keep it consistent here. I was saying to LB, I said to Nobbins, look, I think that goal should have stood, but we know keepers are overly protected. I wasn't surprised that it didn't stand, but we know keepers have that bit more protection than outfield players. So I do believe it should have been given, and a lot of protection. And the thing
they're untouchable goalkeepers now.
Goalkeepers, yeah.
It is crazy.
The thing is, Perchy, I'm going to take the point all day long. I'm a Liverpool fan, but that moment in time was so crucial because if that goal does stand, that's 2-0, and I think it's game over.
And it's game over. Exactly,
it's game over. If that goal stands, it's game over. But the fact, I almost feel that was kind of a catalyst for us because I know you might say we don't deserve a point, but we started to actually make a few openings. especially in the first half, Nunes, that's the difference between Darwin Nunes and Haaland. I love Nunes, but you have to take that chance. 1, 2, 3 chances, and then you're swarmed by defenders where Haaland gets it out of his feet, bang, it's a goal. And even in the second half, I just felt like we did restore a bit more control in the second half. And I actually believe we did deserve a point. I'd honestly believe we deserved a point.
I wouldn't say you deserved a point, but what I did say, I said it on Footy Judge Mo's channel earlier today. What I did say earlier, I said, if you keep it at 1-0, Liverpool are the sort of team that if you give them half a chance, they can nab a chance. Liverpool in that sort of team against anyone, though, if you keep them in the game, they can surprise you, get a goal. I thought City were by far the better team, but they didn't finish their dinner. And as I just said, you allow Liverpool to be back.
Then Perch, that's where I feel you have to give us a bit of credit, because Tsimikas, by the way, who I do not rate, even when we've won these trophies with him, I've said I don't rate him at all, but he was excellent in my opinion. I think he pocketed Phil Foden. I think Phil Foden, I forgot he was on the pitch at times on the weekend. Matip and Van Dijk were excellent. And this is where I feel we have to give us a bit of credit. Yes, City didn't score and they weren't that clinical and they weren't creating much, but that was also down to us being defensively resolute. And one thing I would say as well, City are missing KDB heavily, because I rate Alvarez a lot, but he gets in them half spaces in those pockets and he's not really doing much. He had a good start to the season, but I think he's entering a dip in form, and he got in a lot of positions where he could have hurt us and he didn't really do much. Their main two threats were Doku and Haaland. Alvarez was getting in pockets, Foden was, and we were nullifying the both of them.
Scrum, that's what you want the problem with Liverpool. Just like we said with Chelsea, it's screaming out that they haven't got a striker. You're screaming out that you haven't got a CDM. Like,
100%.
and you bought Endo. I don't know why you're not using him. I think Klopp's trying to put too many square pegs in round holes. And McAllister is not. That's not his position. You're wasting him. Him.
Well, this is why I'm not going to be too critical of McAllister, right? Because there's that cliche saying good players can play anywhere. I know what he can do in the 8 role. I know what he can do. So at Brighton, he needs that industry next to him. When you saw what he did with Caicedo at Brighton, you've seen what he's did in the Argentina shirt. The fan base are very split on him, because you have a lot of Liverpool fans right now that are washing their hands with him already. I think that is absurd. I said, once we get a competent 6, you'll see the best of McAllister. But you're spot on. That is, and that's why.
Roms, it's 2023. It's 2023. Players get 13 games and then they're written off. It's like it's
crazy. This is why I said. This is why I said at the start of the season. Yes, we have the experience. We've had the players that have been there and done it. But this is why I do feel we won't go as far as the City and Arsenal, because I think the DM is that glaring position. However, if we add in January, I put us favourites even above Arsenal. But the DM is the glaring position where we need to strengthen on. And you can see it in the transitions. And back to your point about Endo, he's just not good enough, because this is one player I have washed my hands with already, and I'll tell you why. When we're playing Europa League games and League Cup games, you're supposed to be sticking out like a sore thumb. You're supposed to be in the play from that position. You're supposed to be showing that you can do that role. From when he's not even proving himself in the Europa League games and League Cup games,
who is this?
He's not good enough. Endo. He's not good enough.
Isn't it? Let me play devil's advocate for the sake of the show. Aren't we in a point, though, where it's very difficult when a player doesn't play a game, then you bring them in for one game and we go, right, you've got to prove everything in one game. You've got no match fitness. Go stand out. Plus, you've got to remember this, because this is what I've said at the moment about certain players with Spurs. Sometimes when you put all the B team out together, like B team, you know what I mean? When you make 6, 7, 8 sweeping changes, and then we're going, right, this is your chance to shine. They're also playing with the other weaker players. What would happen with that player if you drop him in with the A team? And he's the only change, when all of a sudden now he's got better. I don't know Endo inside out. I'm not sick. I'm just saying, sometimes aren't we judging a little bit too soon? Just
a rebuttal to that. He has played with the A team and he's getting bounced off the ball. He's very lightwait. Maybe I'm being a bit too.
I'll find out.
I think he's had 2 starts with the A team.
Sav.
I'm not sure the exact minutes. I'm not going to lie. I'm not just going to throw out a number, but he has played games with the A team, and he was still the one sticking out of sore thumb in a bad way.
He's only just joined you guys. Like, are we being a bit critical, a bit way too early in judging a player? straight away on the space of what 13 or 14
but what
games?
I would say is though, like if you sign, sorry, Rams, just quickly say, like if you sign like sort of a 30-year-old more journeyman player sort of thing from the Bundesliga that no other sort of top clubs were really interested in. It doesn't mean he's a bad player. He done well at Stuttgart, but there's probably a reason why at 30 he's not got to move to a big club, because he probably isn't at the level required to go and do that. Generally, if you're good enough, you'll get a move to a bigger club. Like I just don't. He was never good enough for Liverpool in the first place. That's just what I'm not saying he's crap. I don't think he was ever good enough in the first place.
We had this conversation a couple of weeks back where like, you know, you've got to have squads. Like, not everyone in the squad. Now, I'm looking at the minutes. Hang on, just quickly, Roms. I'll bring you straight in after. I'm looking at the minutes that Endo has had all season, right? When we're saying he's had his chance, this is what Endo's had in a Liverpool shirt. So he had 28 minutes on his debut against Bournemouth, right? 4 minutes against Villa. He played 59 minutes against Lask in the Cup. 3 minutes against West Ham. He played 90 minutes against Leicester in the Cup. He played 45 minutes against Royal Union in the Europa League.
It was for that game. That's why he got. Go on,
18 minutes against Spurs in the game where you only had 9 men. Right?
Yeah.
Other than that, he's had 90 against Toulouse, 11 against Forest, 60 against Bournemouth, 90 against Brentford, and then 6 against Man City. How can we really get a player like momentum and consistency? And how do we do that if they're getting 20 here, 8 there, 45 there? Like, how do we judge that?
I hear that, Sab, but I also think it goes down to expectation as well. Where we are trying to win the league, I'll put that out there. I think I want to win the Europa League as well, but we are trying to win no, you can't clip that. We are trying to win the league. I don't think we will win the league, but that is the objective. That is the target, to win the league, right? So I feel like we don't have time for trial and error. We don't really have time to be putting in play. I understand you need rhythm as a footballer, because we're going to get onto a player in your team, Sab, later on, which I believe needs a run of games also. But when we start the Tottenham segment, we'll get onto that. But with Endo, you know, sometimes you can just tell with a player. And the reason why I don't really care if he's a success or not, because he's 30 years old. He was seen as the Milner replacement to have that bit part role, not to start games. And I think he cost, I think it was 12 million. So in this day and age, we know that is chicken change in this modern game. So I don't really care if it works or not. But for you not to ask, I know being devil's advocate, but for you not to ask why didn't he start as a fan base, and I think I'm not the only one, you can just tell he's not that guy. And when he has played with the A team, I know you said, Sab, you still need to give him a run of games. He's still getting beat off the ball too easily. He's not sussing out danger. He's not anticipating danger. And we can just see it as a fan base. So for me, if he proves me wrong now, wrong, I'll hold my hands up. Like, you know what, Endo, you proved me wrong. But you can just tell he's not that guy for us. So this is why Klopp is persisting with McAllister or Jones in that 6 role, because he simply just doesn't trust him. And it's evident. That's why he's playing on the League Cup games and the Europa League games. And then he's even getting hooked up in them. So
Can I ask a question? Then was Endo the panic signing for a DM?
100%.
Yeah.
And
because you wanted Caicedo very much, didn't you?
Exactly the same.
This is why we were identifying Lavia all summer and Caicedo last minute, because Klopp knows we need a DM. So when some Liverpool fans try to paper over the cracks and say Endo isn't.
Oh, Rums. Oh,
no.
Oh,
see, this is another fan. This is another fan, right? This is another fan. Right? He's going to be critical of McAllister, but we know that's not his position. Be patient with McAllister's brought in long term. Endo's not brought in long term. Endo's only a bit part, kind of a stopgap player.
How do you know that?
He's 31.
How do you?
It's evident.
Okay.
Age and price, Sab. But
when you're saying he's going to be a stopgap, what are you selling him next summer? Is he moving on?
I honestly believe Endo has 2 years at Liverpool. I truly believe that. Endo only has about 2 years at Liverpool. I believe he's only here
I
for the-
really hope
for the here
Endo
and now.
starts playing and gets in the PFA Team of the Year. I really,
Oh,
really hope
I
he's
love it.
Sam, I'll come back on here at the end of the season and I'll
Roms will be having an Endo 3 shirt by the end of the season.
I'm gonna buy Roms an Endo shirt. Yeah.
Roms,
Just quickly, Wolfie, I'll bring you in 1 second. Just quickly. Sorry, we've nearly been going an hour. Haven't said, guys, please smash the like button. Free content is YouTube. Smash the like. We're on 84. We should be on 150 by now. Plus, we are 46 subscribers away from giving away a shirt of your choice. So if we get towards, we're 46 away from 12K. When we get there, we will give away a shirt of your choice. It will be a real shirt from whatever club shop of the team you support. You get to choose the size. We will send it to your house. It will all be done nicely, gift wrapped, kisses and all come with it. So 47 people. It is pinned in the chat. Please subscribe to everyone else on this show as well. And we'll put in their links. If there's any mods in the chat, could you please find the links and whack them in? Sorry, Wolfie.
I was just going to say as well, I can see a lot of my lot in the chat, so I'll be checking receipts to make sure they've subscribed here as well. So
yeah, man, come on.
Yeah, but no, the point I was going to make, Rams, is I agree with what you're saying. I don't think he's good enough. Yeah, but if you bought him there, I'm talking about it from McAllister's perspective. Surely it is better to play a crapper CDM and put McAllister in his correct position than it is to make McAllister worse in a CDM and have the whole fan base split on it. That's my point on it. And I do agree, you should have got Sangare. I can't believe you didn't come in for Sangare. He would have been perfect for you guys.
See, I'm not gonna lie to you. I only watched Sangare once. It was an away game. They played Arsenal at the Emirates, right? And I was there with my boy. And from what I saw, he had a trampoline touch. He wasn't that technically sound. I wasn't really
trampoline touch. I've never heard it.
I wasn't really a bigger fan from him, so I didn't really want to Sangare. But quickly back to Perch's point, right? The reason how Endo was literally a panic sign, the fact that we are still trying to identify other DMs. And another thing I'll say, there's also a young player who's very good. Do I think he's the answer that can bring us to a league? No, he's still young. But I do feel like our recruitment are looking at Bajcetic as that long-term DM. That's another reason why I believe we didn't go in for defensive midfielder, because I do believe Klopp, Prep, Linders and our recruitment team believe he could be the future. And he's quality, but we need a DM here and now. A Paulina would have been excellent. A Tchouameni would have been excellent. Players of this ilk, but we just didn't get our targets over the line. So
he's a stopgap as well, by the way, not a first choice signing. Because if he was genuinely like one of the first two choices of being signed, you'd have signed him straight away because no one was going in for him.
Exactly.
That's how you know.
Yeah, sure.
The thing is, you'll get some of our fans saying, "But Klopp said to him in the introduction vid, I'm going to need you. I need." We know managers say things all the time that they don't need. Exactly.
But hang on, but he does need him. Just because he says he needs him doesn't mean he's going to play every game, right?
Yeah.
Look. I want to move on from Liverpool, Man City. Because I'll tell you what, somebody earlier, Mo, big up Mo. If you haven't subscribed, go over and subscribe to Footy Judge Mo. Awful takes today, Mo. I'm on with him tomorrow, by the way. I'm on with him tomorrow. He's not going to go easy on me tomorrow. Thank you for the people that have subscribed, that have liked the channel. I want to talk before we're going to end on Tottenham Villa. We're going to end on Tottenham for a little bit at the end. Before we do, Wolfie, Nottingham Forest, second season. You came up last year. It felt like you signed 324 players in one summer or whatever it is you signed.
325.
You went signed a fair few this year as well. I seem to remember that your training ground was heavily featured on transfer deadline day. How's it all going? Is Cooper getting it right? Are you where you should be? I don't know. What's your expectations? Should you be higher up the table? What's going on?
I prefer it when we talk about the other clubs and I could take the piss out of theirs.
That's not how this works, man. That's not how this works. See, Pete's got it easy because his team just won 4-1. Spurs are about to be annihilated and Forest just lost at home to 10 men Brighton. So, this is how it works.
I used to like Pete until the 19th of January last season when they sold us Chris Wood for 19 million. But
hang on, you said CEOs, right? Owners have to take accountability. So
yeah, but yeah, on Forest, look, the fan base, Cooper is like in an idol in most fans' eyes. Yeah, to critique Cooper is basically sacrilegious at Forest, and of course, I will. And I don't think he's getting it right. He's too negative. He's too negative in his tactics. He's too slow to react. He likes to be the underdog. He will do well against the harder teams, as Charlie found out this season. Thanks for our second away win in our return to the Premier League, Charlie. But against teams that you're expected to beat, Luton, prime example, you go 2-0 up and you blow it in the last 15 minutes thanks to stupid substitutions. You know, and it's a story of our season so far. We've been in winning positions and we've lost 11 points from winning positions. We go 1-0 up against Brighton after 3 minutes. And what do? We revert to a deep defensive, counter-attacking, low block system. And his idea of getting the 3 points is to hold out for 87 minutes. It's never going to happen when you've got Ferguson on there, when you've got all the other players Brighton have got, irrespective of the injuries they've had. And it's just a case of there's no attacking flair with Forest. Forest are boring to watch. If you're a neutral, I doubt if you see like Forest playing Everton on Sky, I'm sure you've all programmed that into your reminders this weekend. You know, it's not going to be a pretty match.
I have to disagree with you. 2 90 minutes I've watched was Chelsea and a Villa, and I thought you lot were, I was entertained by Forest. So
the Villa game, yeah, that's the exception. Yeah. It's the games in between we've had. Now, don't get me wrong. Cooper's done a lot of good things this season. Yeah. But what frustrates me the most is if Forest win, it's because of Cooper. If Forest lose, it's because of the players and players making mistakes. And I'm not on board with that. I'm on board with praising someone when they've done a good job and critiquing them when they've done crap. And honestly, you don't throw away the amount of leads we've had in a season and expect not to be punished in the Premier League or to be critiqued. He's under pressure now. It's been all over the papers this week. There's been links of him being sacked if he loses against Everton. Talks came out, I think, yesterday night that Crystal Palace are monitoring it because they want him instead of Roy Hodgson. West Ham are interested, etc. But the job he has done has been like no other. To get us from the bottom of the Championship into the Premier League in the same season, you know, and then take us and keep us in the Premier League. That's kudos to him. However, you should not be judged on your history. You should be judged on what you're currently doing and where the direction of the club is going. So yeah, I'm probably salty because of the Brighton result this weekend, where I felt we could have won. We did it against West Ham last week as well. Took the goal. Elanga whips his shirt off, whips his bra off. And then by the time he's put his bra back on, they've already equalized, and then we go and lose the match. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. It really
is. Game management seems to be like I watched loads of Forest, but like you seem to get yourself into a lot of good positions in games, but can't see it out. Is that? I mean, you haven't got a load of inexperienced players. There are quite a lot of senior pros in that side. Like, why do you reckon the game management's so poor? Look, all teams will throw points away from good positions, but Forest seem to be doing it most weeks.
Bro, he's scared to attack. Once he's got the lead, he's like, okay, we've got to lock down, drop the anchor, see what we can do and lock it in. That's the problem with it. If he would take that bloody handbrake off and attack, the first 3 minutes against Brighton were fantastic. Carry on and do it. They were so shaky. He let them back into the game. Yes, there is responsibility on the players. Of course there is. They played so deep. You know, I was looking at the stats. Chris Wood, thanks again, Pete, his average position against Brighton.
You forgot Shelby as well. But,
don't even get started on him, man. Chris Wood's average position against Brighton was further back than our whole midfield and half our defense. That's how deep he was playing. He's so goddamn slow, man. Honestly, my dead
for the next 3 months, haven't you?
Can move quicker than he can. And these bloody Newcastle fans, oh, he will do a job for you. He is absolute crap, man. 19 million we paid for him, guys, on a 1-year contract that expires at the end of this year. Do you think we're going to get any return on that? We're all taking the mick out of Charlie earlier, yeah? No one has pulled anyone's pants down as much as Newcastle did last January with Forest, with him and bloody that goddamn Harry Potter character for Voldemort as well. It's just 26 million we wasted on those two.
I genuinely thought Wood would do a job for you, you know. I thought you would come in and be that battering man.
You got to use him now for the next 3 months, haven't you? Because one year he's injured, then he goes to Cup of Nations.
Yeah, who's actually a good striker. Yeah,
exactly. Well, I was going to ask you, and Charlie will probably be interested in this as well. What's going on with Andre Santos? Because I saw him pre-season for Chelsea, and he looks a good player, but he's hardly played. I thought he went
Free Santos. Free Santos.
Bro, honestly, I thought he was. Yeah, Romano and Charlie, man, they've just got a campaign going on. Free Santos. Every week I'll get a WhatsApp from Charlie saying Santos, and Romano's there tweeting 12 other teams. And then what you
know what? I don't expect him to play every week, but I just find that I get at the time when you signed him on loan, like you didn't think you'd get Sangari, didn't think you'd get players like Dominguez. I get it, but surely, right, this guy is good enough to at least be in the squad. Most weeks doesn't even make the squad.
Yeah.
Something's amiss there.
Did you know this?
Paid us to take him.
Do you know we pay you every time he is fit and doesn't play? We have to.
So basically, you paid us every game this season. You're just paying us money. He's not using it.
Yeah. Well, this is how Chelsea are beating FFP. They're loaning out their players to Forest, and Forest are just giving them some money every week.
Same with Newcastle.
Before we move on from Forest, listen, I like Forest. You know, I do a lot of work with Dave. I think we've all done a lot of work with Forest Dave. And I spoke to him today actually. And you know, it's always reminiscent. You know, like when I was growing up, Forest were a top team. When I was growing up, you know, Cloughie was there. You know, you always had really good players. That kind of fairy tale.
Brian Roy.
Yeah, then even I was going to say you had like the likes of Van Hooijdonk, Brian Roy, even the likes of Steve Stone and Ian Wone and Chettle, and do you know, like I'm going back.
You get me aroused. You get me aroused.
Well, that was my aim.
This is all foreign to me.
Yeah, Roms, how old are you? How old are you, Roms?
25.
Oh, mate, yeah. Listen, no, I'm going back to what early 90s there. So yeah. But listen, it's good having Forest back. I like Forest being there. But I have seen half the Forest fans I see when they're talking online are really bored. Like they like Cooper, they thank Cooper for what's happened, but they just feel that the football is, dare I say it, something to relate for Spurs fans. I was going to say not Eric Dyer. I was going to say it was Conte-esque in terms of not wanting to go forward unless it's springing an attack. Would that be fair? Just to finish off Forest chat, is that fair?
Yeah. What I will say, and I always say this when I come on anyone's channel, I'm in a minority. Yeah. The majority of the Forest fan base, there are people in the Forest fan base that say if we got relegated, they would still want Cooper in charge. Yeah. They're Cooper till they die. Yeah. And I'm not saying a small percentage of that. There's a big percentage of that. Yeah. I care about my club. I don't care who the manager is, as long as they are producing on the pitch. I will always love and respect what a manager has done. Yeah. But let's face it, you are only as good as your last match and the next one coming. And that's where I stand on this one. And the fear with the Forest fan base is we've had I think 36 managers in 30 years. And people are scared of new managers. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. Problem they forget is those managers we recruited, we're in the Championship. We're in the Premier League now. You recruit.
One of the big boys. You're 3 points off Chelsea.
Exactly.
You're mixing it with the big boys.
Exactly, mate. And, that's where I am with it. I am frustrated, but I will guarantee you that the majority of the Forest fan base are fully behind Cooper. Come hell or high water. And I don't think that's a healthy place. I'll be honest with you. It's becoming Cooper FC as I call it, over Forest.
Listen, I completely understand that. I really, really do. Listen, we are going to move on, but before we do, Pete, I know you only had till 5, so thank you for giving us a few minutes extra. I would say good luck to you tonight. I have got PSG in my ACCA. I'm so sorry. I've got PSG in my... Yeah,
nah, mate.
Sorry.
We need a Newcastle win for the coefficient.
Pete, do you know what I will say? I don't know you bet with Savva, but just let them go 2-0 up, then you can come back 3-2, and I don't care. Like, you can do what you want.
Oh, you got the two. Have you got the 2-goal one? Yeah, I do that all the time.
So, Pete, thanks so much for coming on. You're always welcome. I love your opinions, and good luck tonight. Good luck tonight on a serious.
Fingers crossed. Pleasure, boys, as always.
Take care, man. Take care, my friend. Listen, we will be ending the show in about 17 minutes. We will never go past the half past. Give everyone a chance to settle down, make some food, get a brew, depending where you live. It's called a cup of tea or a brew or whatever, and settle down for the Champions League games. That Perchy and I will be doing the live score show tonight because it's a good show where we can act silly. I normally get some really bad takeaway and eat it on screen. That then's become the topic of the whole show. Guys, I can't sit here and talk about your clubs and then not bring my club in. I'll start with Perchy with his questionable blue. I'm not sure what colour it is.
It is purple, to be fair.
I'm not sure.
Spurs away purple.
I'm not Spurs away, but when did Spurs last wear an away purple top?
Not too long ago. Yeah.
I'm joking. Right. Guys, sharpen your swords. You can have your say in a minute. Perchy, look, we've got to talk about Tottenham. We've got, for fairness, this isn't a Spurs show tonight. This is a rival show. Tottenham, we're now 3 defeats in a row. Man City up next at the Etihad. I'm really glad I'm on holiday for it. What's gone wrong? Is this purely down to injuries? Would we have won these 3 games without the injuries? And how do Spurs navigate this next few games where we've got City away, West Ham at home in the London Derby, and then Newcastle at home?
Oh, a lot to unpack there, and I feel like I keep having to unpack it. That's the pain of it all. So would we have won them with our players? You'll never know. I think you'd have had a better chance beating the likes of Wolves, Aston Villa, Chelsea if we didn't lose the players and then have the players suspended. Man City coming up terrifies me because we've shown very, very quickly that we burn out very quickly. And that's just the way the Ange Postecoglou way, right? I think that's, in fairness, that's it. But I'm worried. But listen, the Man City game, in a sense, I didn't think we were going to win. I think even if we were full strength, I would fancy Man City. So I'll go into that with a weakened side going, do you know what? If we get anything from it, it's the best result of the season. I feel like I've said that for the last few games as well. But with the injury front, I mean, look, the news has now come out that Rodrigo Bentancur is now out for at least 3 more months, which for him specifically is absolutely horrendous. You come back from a 10-month injury, a 9-month injury, to then get sidelined for another 3 months. I mean, after basically starting his first game back for the team, you couldn't write it. I mean, that's horrendous. I mean, he was brilliant for the first, since he got injured for us. Look, listen, the way we play is fabulous. That first half an hour, as I said, we did the watch long, said it was the best football I've seen us play in a very, very long time. But the pain for us at the moment is we do burn out. And the problem is we keep getting injuries. Whether we like it or not, we're getting more and more injuries. Yes, Yves Bissouma's back for the Man City game. Romero's still suspended.
Yeah.
It's a worry. It's a huge worry because it's all well and good. It's all well and good praising the way we play and stuff, but playing great and being the better team for periods of game doesn't win you games of football. And the problem is I know how our club operate. If we start, where are we going to be if we start losing to Man City, West Ham, Newcastle? That's 6 on the bounce.
Forest.
When does it? Where does it
Forest
change,
away after that? Well, listen,
Forest away.
Let me bring in the other guys in no particular order. I mean, look, Spurs did, I think, got off to a better start than I think definitely more than Spurs fans expected. It must have been a much better start than you guys as rivals expected. It has abruptly come to an end. Now, we can sit here and go injuries, suspensions, but then again, I think Chelsea could say that all season. Newcastle could say that all season. You know, lots of clubs can say that. Where do you guys see Spurs at the moment? Do you think it was a lot of hype at the beginning of the season from rival fans just to knock us? Do you think we're in a rebuild? What do you think of Ange? Well, what's your takes on Spurs?
I think it was over. I think, look, started very well. Don't get me wrong. You know, to come in as a new manager to the league, new manager to Spurs, he started very, very well. Putting some good performances. That's fair to say. My worry with Spurs, and I've said this to you loads of times. We don't need to go over it in massive detail, but no, you're not going to do very well with just a good first 11 and no strength in depth. That is the problem. Everyone gets injuries, and I think I said to you a couple of weeks ago, you've basically swapped being a team that's reliant on Harry Kane, and you've now replaced that to a team that's reliant on James Maddison. So you just literally swapped. You've gone one for one. Kane's gone. You think, it's going to be more of a team, and it is more of a team, but you're still massively over-reliant on James Maddison. I also worry a little bit as well. This might sound ridiculous, but I almost maybe liken Postecoglou a little bit to Bielsa in a sense. Remember when Bielsa's Leeds come up, right? Everyone was raving about the way that they played, and then they didn't have any other way of playing. They approached every single game the same way. No matter what the situation was in the game, they never adapted their style. I just wonder for Tottenham, right, and Postecoglou, whether him adopting that approach is going to end up being problematic, because I look at it and no teams play the same way in every single game, regardless of the situation. I think there's got to come a point where you have your principle of play, right? But when you get to certain situations in certain games, you think, right, okay, we need to lock this down and take what we've got right now. We need to see this game out, or we need to go for it a bit more. I just think this constant gung-ho, whilst the fans will enjoy watching that kind of football because of what you've seen under Jose, because of what you've seen under Conte, has been terrible football. I just look at it and I think Spurs got good players. Squad depth is lacking massively, as you know. But I just think with Ange, I think he could benefit from adapting his style to suit certain games and situations in games, rather than it constantly being gung-ho. Because I think in a lot of games, you're just going to leave yourself open.
Yeah, no, listen. So go, mate.
I was just going to I agree with a lot of what you said there, Charlie, but I just got 2 points on Spurs. One, they can't complain because they went from that dire football under Conte to this. Ask them this time last year. Well, this time last year, would they have taken that? Of course they would have. I don't think Maddison is the key injury. I don't. It's Van de Ven.
For me.
It's Van de Ven.
Van de Ven defensively, but Maddison, the key bit is we create many more opportunities, and we have Son is more effective when James Maddison's on the pitch, right? And I think that's the key bit. But Van de Ven, though, is a great point but what I would say, I look at the games and I just go, I think you're right. We're missing the energy of Van de Ven defensively, but
it's not just his energy, Perchy. It's not just the key for me is
his
tactics are built around the strengths of Van de Ven. He is one of the quickest backs I've seen. To play a line that's stupidly high, you have to have a Van de Ven. And that's why I agree with Charlie. He hasn't adapted to the change. Van de Ven is what allowed you to play that aggressive and that attacking. And without him, you can't do it. So as good as Maddison is, I know he's creative, but the nucleus and the core of that team is Van de Ven, because he allows Postecoglou to play the style in which he wants to, and you can be aggressive.
I've got a question for Sav and Perchy. Your Spurs this season, for me, are very reminiscent of Klopp in his first season. That we're playing gung-ho, we're having to outscore teams, whatnot. Do you feel like a lot of your injuries, not the Bentancur one, because that was literally foul from Matty Cash, but the ones that have come quite natural, like Van de Ven pulling up, do you think it's down to playing style? Because that Charlie just said, under Conte and Mourinho, you were quite pragmatic. You wasn't pressing this high. You wasn't as energetic. Where you've gone to a manager now that his identity is very nice football, but it's also it requires a lot of energy, right? So do you feel like some of the injuries are down to his playing style as well? Obviously, you've had suspensions, but it's very, very reminiscent to Klopp's first season, because Joe Gomez and Sturridge come out and said this in podcast. We were getting players dropping like flies. We were having injuries here, there, and everywhere due to the demand of the playing style. Do you think that could be a contributing factor?
Yeah, no, I agree. I likened this to the sort of early period of Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. This is that period where players are now needing to adapt to. They need to adapt to it, but let's be honest, we've still got players that we need to offload, and I think that's so important. It's why I said at the start of the season, I said it's a free hit. As long as he doesn't relegate us, I don't care. I want this manager here because the philosophy and the ideology of this manager is exactly what I want at this football club. And I know we need open heart surgery. We need open heart surgery at this football club. There's so many problems.
You sound like Ragnick. That's what Ragnick said about United. No,
it's true, but the problem is you're right. You are right. But the problem what we have as well is very similar to Man United. Actually, it's a very good example, very good point to Man United, because Man United need exactly that. But the problem is it can only go. You can only do it in time. Let's be frank and honest with it, right? Let's be fair. Tottenham, the way we operate, we're not getting it done like that. It's going to take window after window after window. This is one of those things. I said it could take up to 6 transfer windows for us to go, okay, there we go. We're ready now. 3 years. But
in that time, the other teams then get better with you, Perchy, and that's the problem.
Of course. And that's what we've got. That's what we've got to understand. And that's why I said at the beginning, when everyone sort of said, oh, when we were top of the league with 10 games gone and everyone got really excited, I was like, hang on, calm down. Like, the bubble will burst, and it will burst in a bad way, because you lose the likes of Maddison, Van der Ven, Romero for periods of games. That team doesn't look as good the second 2 or 3 come in.
Do you think as well, I think one of the key things about this, and this is why I never get carried away, and I know, people want to get carried away, and that's really, really good, but
you're not a Spurs fan, Sav.
Yeah, I know. I can't celebrate when we next win a trophy. Yeah, I know. When I look at a lot of the wins we had in the beginning of the season, I think we did play a lot of the teams that I don't think have got a lot of firepower. A lot of the teams that can't really hurt you. When you look at no offense to these clubs, but Luton, Burnley, Sheffield United, Brentford, Fulham.
I disagree. Luton can hurt you. Trust me, Luton are a quality team.
They can hurt you. They can hurt you, not us. Right? I think when I look at a lot of those wins there, we said it. I think most Spurs fans that take a step back and took a breather rather than talking about trains and hype and titles and stuff, said we're going to have Chelsea, Wolves away, who are a good team, Villa, who score goals for fun, Man City, who are the best team in world football, right? You've then got, in that next batch, you've then got West Ham as a tough London derby, Newcastle, who score goals for fun, Forest away, that were going to make it incredibly difficult for us, like they did, I saw, against Aston Villa. They played them. This is what we had a conversation about 3 or 4 weeks ago, Perchy, of now that bit's over and done with. Now that first part's done, what's the next 10 games look like? That will tell us more. Was this good form? Was this luck? Was this because we played poorer teams? What happens when you've played everyone once and you can have a true reflection? For me, yes, the injuries don't help, but I've never wanted to be one of those fans with those excuses, because everyone's playing with injuries,
You've
right?
You've got to factor that in. That comes with the season.
Of course.
Absolutely, you factor that in. So when we're going, but he's got to play Royale and Davis at the back, but we would have known that in the summer by not buying another centre-half. So I look at it both ways. Look, I think Spurs have had a phenomenal start to the season, more than we all thought was going to happen. And the biggest thing for me, guys, I don't know if you agree, is if we lose to Man City and it's 4 in a row, the fact that it's 4 in a row and 4 defeats in a row out of 14 games,
that's bigger than losing to City.
But But Charlie, my point is this: if we had lost 4 of our first 14, but they weren't all in a row and they were scattered, yeah,
that's fair.
Would it have looked as bad? Like, do you know what I mean?
No,
It wouldn't
no
have
chance.
looked as bad, would it?
Of course not. But like, it's the context you apply. But Savva, you know, football fans don't apply context. Do you know what I mean? Like,
No,
see
I know.
Like 4 in a row, but that's 4 losses in 14. 4 losses in 14 is not bad. But then if you say 4 losses in a row, that doesn't look great, does it?
No,
So
of
it's the context you apply to things. Yes, it's 4 defeats in a row, but if you look at it on a bigger picture, like people should, 4 defeats in 14 for Tottenham at the start of the season, you probably would have taken that. I probably would have said that's
But
about
Charlie,
right.
you'd take that at Chelsea.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Absolutely.
Can I just say though, back onto the actual game, I know you may not agree, Sav and Perch, but I think you lot were the better team first half. I think you were all over them.
Yeah, we were.
First off, I agree. We were the better team.
And
The changes at the break made a big difference.
100%. And I think
Tielemans
everyone was
and
assuming.
Bailey.
I think everyone was assuming that I actually have to give Andrew a bit of credit because I think everyone was under this assumption that Dyer was going to start, and it was a bit bold, but he started 4 fullbacks in a back 4. And you know what? I actually rated him for it because it was working until it didn't. And Sav, I don't know if you remember, we were on Saeed's show and I mentioned 2 players. I said Brennan Johnson, I think he's quality, and I think he'll be a good player for Spurs once you come back, and he'll be a star because of the sum you had. And Brian Hill, I wasn't sure whether he was still on loan. I wasn't sure he was still at Spurs this season, but I've seen glimpses of a baller there. And you know what I think their problem was? In that first half, they were getting into great positions, but their end product for me, Brian Hill and Brennan Johnson, they were getting into great positions, but there's times where they either hit the cross a bit too early or it was a bit too late. And then Son, it's unfortunate because on another day, three offside goals could have been 3 given goals, and that first half alone, you could have been about 2 goals.
Roms, I listen. I think the worry is, and I agree. Listen, I think we played really well. The problem from the Villa game for me wasn't about did we play well. Yeah, I think that's not the issue for me. Is whether we played well. The issue for me was, I'm not blaming anyone for this, is that the style of play that we've got is really good to a point, right? Yeah. But I think what teams are realizing now is you can't play that for longer than 30, 40 minutes. Right? Now, and this is the thing. So when people go, oh my God, this football's brilliant, why should he have to change a tactic ever? Well, Perchy, you and I did a watch along. And I sat there, guys. I'm sure none of you are watching our Spurs watch along, but during the watch along, I said to you about 50 to 55 minutes, I said, I can just sense they're dropping off and dropping off and dropping off. And I meant the energy, not that we were sitting back. And the problem that happened, Roms, was once that energy went, when the energy was there, Villa didn't know what hit them. We pressed them. They didn't have any moments in midfield to get the ball out and pass. What happened was the moment our energy started to go, Aston Villa's midfield 3 had that 2 seconds difference, which is massive as a midfielder. They had that 2 seconds difference to get the ball control, find Leon Bailey, who made a massive difference on the right, find Luca Digne on the left, find Ollie Watkins. They didn't do that in the first half. Now, I'm not saying Postecoglou should change his setup at all. I just think during games, when we start to flag, I think you've got to do something a little bit different because teams are starting to open us up like a can of worms. And this isn't even just about the defenders being out, Perch. I don't know if you agree on this. They're starting to cut through our midfield in second halves of games. They did it. Wolves did it. Chelsea did it. Villa have done it. We're starting to cut through our midfield because the energy levels go. So for me, I think there needs to be slight tweaks in second half of games.
It screams naivety to me. I think you're spot on. I feel that, and he I wouldn't say wrong and strong, but we know a lot of managers stick to their principles. But I think you're spot on. It can only be to its optimum level to about 30 minutes, and then I do believe you have to change things in game. And I think if he keeps sticking to this high octane style of play until you tire out, it's going to be to your detriment. I think you're spot on with that. Spot on. Because if you played like that against City, I genuinely believe we could be seeing 6s and 7s. I'm not even just exaggerating when I say that.
This is the thing, right? I'm not saying it, and I know the problem is when I say this, what I know off the back of this video, guys. We laugh and joke about it as YouTubers. I know off the back of what I'm about to say next, I'm going to get loads and loads of comments on my YouTube from people that aren't actually taking the context of what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm not saying the manager's got to change his philosophy. I love that we're attacking. I love that we are completely polar opposite to what we were under Conte. I just think that sometimes during the game, when the opposition start opening you up the way that Villa did in that second half, I think it's at what point do you go, hang on, we need to, I don't know, drop 10 yards for 5 minutes, kill the game off, stop the flow, stop the constant attacks going at your goal. What I will get now off the back of this will just be tons and tons of hate with people going, you don't understand Postecoglou, you hate Postecoglou. It's not. I love it. But you are right, Roms. Imagine what's going to happen against Man City with them slicing through our midfield.
Yeah, but you always beat them. Even when you're crap, you always somehow beat them.
At home.
No. But that was when we used to sit 10 or 11 people behind the ball and go on, press us.
It was pragmatic,
Very similar to how Wolves beat them. Very, very similar how Wolves beat them. They sat defensively and went bang on the counter and we're doing it. And we had
I honestly I think you guys, as in the Spurs, you're overreacting. I look at Spurs and the style of football you're playing in complete jealousy. In complete jealousy. I'm in my Conte period, just like you were last year. I would kill to have that problem that my manager is playing too high a line. I agree with what you're saying. His in-game management needs improving. He doesn't need to change his philosophy. He needs to read the situation better. Against Chelsea, suicide playing that high.
When you say you think we're overreacting, so what were we overreacting to?
What I'm saying is that, because I've got my brother, he's a Spurs fan, and I've seen it directly with him. He was starting to build his hope up, and then you lose to Chelsea, and it's like, oh, here we go, it's Spurs, and then the mood crashes down. When I'm saying you're overreacting is I think Spurs are going to be absolutely fine. You've got a fantastic manager. Yeah.
But no one, hang on, just quickly. No one said we won't be.
I know. I'm just giving you your positives. No, I know. What I'm saying is your defining moment isn't going to be these next few games. It's going to be the January transfer window. If that tight-ass Levy bolsters the squad, he's just got to bolster it. Yeah, I know Perchy was saying 6 windows. I don't think it needs 6. If you go and get yourself 4, 5, 6 squad players in January and just bolster it out a little, you will be fine. You will be fine.
But the squad players that we need on, and without being disrespectful in the sense of it needs to be more than a Lloyd Kelly. Like, because that's who the player we're linked with right at the moment.
Golfing class.
Yeah, but that's golfing class. We need the class to go from here to here to here.
And we need. You say that. Who had heard of Van de Ven before the start of the season in the Spurs?
No, but hang on. Well, I watch German football, but hang on. Just because you haven't heard of someone doesn't mean they're not quality.
That's my point.
But the point is, Wolfie, we've all heard of Lloyd Kelly. It's not that we don't know Lloyd Kelly. He's just not good enough.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying him specific. No, I'm not saying him specific. I'm saying you will be linked to more players come the window.
Yeah. But that's
how much will they cost?
Wolfie, another thing
at the moment.
Wolfie, I think, and Savva and Perch will agree. I think another point is I actually agree with you. The defining moment will be the January window, but similar to us, it then pops up this question. Do you then trust Levy, Liverpool fans? Do we then trust FSG to then and go out and get them players? And this is where the problem comes into it.
You might sign one, and it'll be like a loan or a cheap signing.
I can predict our transfer window in January. I'll predict it. I'm going to clip this up myself because I bet it's right. We signed Jota on loan from Al Ittihad, the one who had on loan.
That's Andrew's boy. That's Andrew's boy, isn't it?
Yeah. We signed Lloyd Kelly. And then one other. I'm working on the one other, but I think we'll sign them because then but the problem what we have, and the biggest problem is homegrown status of football players at the moment. We have a real problem where the homegrown players of this football club aren't good enough. And unfortunately, they're still here. But we can't sell them.
We can't sell them because of the homegrown stuff.
Because the likes of Oliver Skip is still at this football club because he's homegrown and he's played through it. And if we get into Europe, you need 4 players that have come through your academy in your team. So the likes of Skip, the likes of Tanganga will stay at this football club because we've got no one good enough to register.
Do you want Skip gone? these two.
I don't think he's very good football. I don't think he's a very good football player.
I don't think he's good. I don't think he's even good enough for the poorer teams on this panel, like Chelsea and Forest. I don't think he's. I'm only joking. I just wanted to dig at Chelsea.
Surely he's quite a decent player. He's not better than Winks, though, is he? Winks has gone to the Championship. Skip's not. I don't think Skip's a better, levels better than Winks.
I think Skip and Winks are the same person. For me. Both average. Yeah. They're home. Listen, I always put them in the bracket of if they didn't come through the academy and you had bought them, you'd be going, why are you buying this player? Just quickly,
when you put it like that. Yeah.
We do need to wrap up in a minute. Just quickly, high press. I just for anyone who's not a Spurs fan, I just want to let you know that just because Spurs sold Kane towards the end of the window doesn't mean we've got Kane money burning in the pocket. The way Daniel Levy operates, and he knew Kane was going, and the signings of Madison, Van der Ven, Vicario.
That was the Kane money.
That was the Kane money. Right? And then Brennan Johnson. That was Harry Kane money and a tiny little bit extra on top that he made from Davinson Sanchez. And God forbid, he might have even put 20 million of the club's own money into a transfer kitty. But I know, Steph. Oh, hang on. Daniel Levy's fainting somewhere, looking for his 20 million. Look, for me, as I've said before, I think everything is fine at Spurs. I think I'm not a fan that looks at the short term. For me, I'm looking at the long term. I really like the manager. I think we've got loads of positives going on. We've completely ripped up the backroom staff. The chief football officer, whatever that is now. I used to think it was a chief finance officer, chief football officer, new head of academy, new scouts, new director of football, new manager, new philosophy. I really think it's all very good. All my message is, and has been all season to Spurs fans, is just calm down. Don't get too excited too soon. Let the season pan out. If we get back into Europe, I think it's a great season. If you get back into Champions League, I think the guy needs a statue made of himself. So, has anyone got anything else they want to say before we wrap up for the show?
I'll tell you what, just one thing to add for your January window. I wouldn't be surprised if Kyogo gets linked to you. The Japanese
all day. I'll take
that. I believe he has signed a new contract, but
what do contracts mean these days, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Just to sell on players for more. Yeah, just to have their resale value. Yeah.
Anne just said, don't understand. I don't think anyone said the negative. I don't think anyone said anything negative. We've got players come back. Of course we have. Look, this isn't just Spurs. This is all football clubs. All football clubs can sit there and go, yeah, but when this player comes back, the season carries on without them, right? How long do you do this for? You've got to keep winning games. You've got to keep drawing. You've got to find a way. The excuse can't be that we've got, God, I was going to win the show. I'm going to win the show. But realistically, how many first team players, Perchy, were missing on Sunday? Realistically, how many first team starters? Van der Ven.
3.
Madison.
Basuma.
Romero was suspended.
I'm not counting the suspended players. That's on them. Okay. That's on them. Van der Ven.
R9.
Madison and
Sarr. Pape Sarr, yeah.
Say, for me, Bentancur played instead of him anyway. So I don't think the injury crisis is as bad as people think. I think the problem is that you've got Basuma and Romero that have both been silly and got themselves
I think the injury crisis, if you want to call it that, the injury problem we have is, you're right. By the way, first team, you're missing 3 players, but the key bit is the bench, right? Because we have got our bench just gets weaker and weaker and weaker. Like it's gone from the drop off to there to down here, and it becomes, when you have to sub on the likes of Oliver Skip, that's when it gets a bit worrying.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Listen, we are gonna end the show there. So I'm just rescheduling my next show for 55 instead of 45. 5-2. Most people would have said 5-2. I said 55.
Yeah,
that's weird. Guys, listen, Wolfie, thank you very much. Where can people find you, man? Where can people find you? And can someone whack their channel into the show, please? That would be amazing.
We're on YouTube at Forest Fan TV. One word. Come subscribe. We just give honest opinions. We ain't right, but we ain't wrong either. So come find us there.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you for making your debut, Wolfie, and great to see you the other day as well. I'm just putting your link into the chat, or was that what you were doing, Perchy?
Literally what I was doing whilst you were hosting.
Oh, okay, cool. If you do it, cool. Means I don't have to. I'm happy with that. Roms, where can people find you, bro?
Right, don't have my own personal channel, but you can find me on Big Six Bants. My boy Monts, he's also Liverpool fans, generic over there. Got a lot of fans from different clubs, so that's mainly where you will find me. But thanks for having me, Sav. Love the show as always.
Roms, you're one of my favourites. I love it. Apart from your terrible Trent Alexander-Arnold prediction the other day, it was good, man. It's good. Listen, thanks so much for coming on, man. You're always welcome. You know that. And it's the Blue Brother. It's Charlie. I always enjoy watching his media accounts. He's so desperate for Chelsea to get back to where they are. He follows them around the country.
It's tough. It's tough.
It must be tough with all those titles you've witnessed in the last 2 decades. It must be hard work. Where can people find you, Charlie?
Yeah, literally just at Blue Brother CFC on YouTube. That's where I do most of my stuff. So that's there as it is on screen right there. So if you want to go over and subscribe, guys, that'd be greatly appreciated. But yes, Sav, always a pleasure to be on, mate. Always enjoy it.
Always welcome, always welcome. And here is the link for Forest Fan TV as well. Listen, big up to everyone. Please don't forget to subscribe to Perchy and myself. We really do appreciate everything. We're coming to the end of our first month as a couple. It's been exciting. We've had our rows. We've had our makeup. Finish that sentence if you want. And listen, thank you very much, everyone. Please please subscribe. And we are live. Have we redirected, Perchy?
We have redirected.
We're going to be doing a Champions League live score show where normally one of my massive hackers comes in so follow my hackers. So big up. Thanks, everyone. I won't be here next week. Perchy will be here next week. Am I missing something, Perchy?
Yeah, don't forget Susie. She's the key member. And also, don't forget to subscribe to Pete.
Yeah, listen, Susie does all of our artwork. Susie does all of our videos. And she keeps us in check. So it's all good.
Big time.
Thank you, Susie. Everyone, see you later. Perchy will be here next week. I'm going to be on a beach somewhere in Cape Verde. Perchy will be looking after things. Take care, everyone. See you later. And as always, I'm going to copy Goonie. Southgate out.